I do like talking to you guys. Um, Zoom user, I don't know who you are, but welcome to the group. At the bottom of my participants list because of being a ZU. I don't have any questions. I put most things that I've been working on. Even yeah, actually, just for the past month, everything I worked on, I put into our webinar from Saturday. Which, if you're not a webinar participant, you should subscribe at some point because it was such a fabulous webinar. I took the notes, and while I was editing the video, I went back through the whole webinar again in order to check my notes. And I caught like two and three times as much information. There were just so many levels that David was talking on, and it was so beautiful. We asked him, Dave Mitchner from Math High Botanical Gardens. Steve and I asked him, we said, we'd like you to do the January webinar, and we'd like you to just take us away from here. Take us away from the gray and the Michigan and the Midwest dulls. Just take us any place in the world. Take us everywhere in the world if you want. Do anything you want to do. Just wander around. And he did, but he also just decided that he was going to teach various uh, lessons, topics, points along the way. Anyway, it was so cool. Now, why did oh, so I put in our garden in that session, I had a couple of the questions we were working on. And then I've got one that I moved to next week, Free4All Friday, because it's kind of appropriate for the middle of January. We see things happen like that. So if you've got any questions, well, our hockey nuts, yeah. Yeah, my the hockey thing does get to people. I had a couple of clients, some of my first clients as for professional landscape design were a hockey family, and because I worked with them, I ended up working with hockey family friends of theirs. And at the time, I thought these guys are like insane. They're throwing themselves into vans and station wagons every weekend and going someplace with the whole, all the other kids have to go too. But I'm watching my grandson do that, and my granddaughter played for a little while too. But the grandson plays on what they call a travel team, so they get around to different places. And the other kids like to go. The other kids and the other brothers and sisters. In fact, they've got shirts that say Sister Hawks and Sibling Hawks that they wear to relate them with the team. But they have a great time doing it. And Steven just does love hockey, just loves hockey. So if anybody's got a question or anything that you've been noticing outside, go ahead and go with it. And I'll take us back into the rest of the questions and stuff that I've been getting and the things I've been doing after we get officially started at whatever time I'm babbling on about in 8 minutes, 7 minutes. I'm wondering how many people had a short power outage yesterday. It was just a brief, but maybe 30 seconds, but it was very clear. Click on, click off. And I'm thinking that somebody somewhere, because as far as I know, this power outage hit an area easily 3 miles across around me. And I'm thinking that somebody somewhere flipped a switch. Somebody went, oh, oops. This was going to be, well, it still is in my thinking, a big dragon. This is the tail, and there's the back leg here, and these were the wings. And the boys next door wanted to help. The kids just love to paint with food coloring. Wanted to help, and they got a little carried away with the wings, but those are the wings. And actually, I think it worked out pretty well. Took a lot of green food coloring to do all of this. No questions. No, because it's winter. All of our favorite stuff is under the snow. Well, not today. 50. Well, I think it hit 57 here. Um, and somebody said, isn't that unusual? It is unusually warm. It's not out of the realm of normal. I mean, we've had thaws like that. Generally, there are thaws that are in December, though. You don't get December being solid cold all the way through like it was. I'm just worried that the plants are really going to take a hard hit. That's a big change in temperature at a tough time of year. I did. Yes. I should buy stock in what is the name of that company that does most of the food coloring I buy? Starts with an M. It's, no, I am a terrible shopper. I go
McCormick?
in, pardon me?
McCormick?
Yeah, McCormick. I go into the store and I just go to the thing that I bought before. I don't price shop. I don't look for change. I don't want to see 17 different kinds of things. I just go for the same thing. But I should have bought stock in McCormick years ago because I have a lot of food coloring. Martha, you're here. It's good to see you. Very good to see you. Indianapolis was 63 yesterday. In 1994, 95 winter, and the USDA, the Weather Service of the USDA wrote a book about the weather that January. I think it was January 17th. It went from 70, it might have been 71 here, went from 70 degrees during the day to during the night, -20. And that really just wiped out a lot of plants. I read recently, where was I reading? Oh, I know. I was looking for things I could use for clues in the kids' treasure hunt. We do a New Year's Eve party for our grandkids and their friends, as we did for our kids and their friends. And one of the features that they won't let us leave out is a treasure hunt with clues to find. And while I was looking through clues, it was something about, so what's special about this date? Forgot what the date is. But on that date, in a place in South Dakota, in a matter of minutes, it dropped 50 degrees. Minutes. Can you imagine being in a place that got that cold that quickly? I don't believe Michigan broke any record today, but somebody who's a little bit better at using both the computer to the side and the chat and here. Hi, Diane. Hi, Jeannie. Can take a look and see. But I don't think we broke a record. Not yet. Time yet. So, which weather channel? I don't even remember what weather channel I was on last time I looked up and finally got a nice graph again of the weather history so we could look for what is a good time to prune. Um, Weather, no, Google. Weather, let's see. Um, Record-breaking warmth, setting a new high temperature for January 9th. You got it. Previous record high was 55, but someplace around here hit 60. And that was 1949 and 1880 since it got this warm. Whew, that's a long time. Um, Okay, Carol does have a question. She whacked off a part of a branch this morning while it was warm and it started to mist a couple. Yeah, it did. It started spitting a little later. I was thinking I was going to do a little more pruning and you covered it with a plastic bag. Forecast said it was going to get down to 31 degrees tonight. That shouldn't be a problem. It's hovering around 32, 31 is not going to be a problem. It's when it gets down to 28 and below that the cells that are exposed from the cutting can't finish their process of filling up with resin and protecting themselves and hardening off. So you're probably just fine. I don't think you needed to cover it with a plastic bag, but that might have kept it drier. Who knows? It was wet this morning. I had great plans this week for what my pruning schedule was going to be. I did get some pruning done, but it was not on the days that I first started out to do. Yep. If you know rain is coming. Thanks, Diane. We prune. We aim to prune on during a dry period when the weather is going to be for at least the next 24 hours, not much below freezing. We'd like it to be 30 or above. Um, and so it's okay if it like today, when I looked out, I went, oh shoot, I was going to finish the crab apple today and it must have rained overnight. Everything's wet again. But then the wind came up and the wind is going to dry everything off. But it was so windy that I was trying to prune and the branches are literally flapping in my face and the crab apple. I said, well, never mind. I guess I'm going to have to wait and do this a little at a time. Welcome to Free4All Friday, where all gardeners are welcome to celebrate growing and cultivate problem solving. I mean, that's what we do here. This is a 60-second time. GardenAtoZ.org is your host. That's me, Janet Makanovich, and usually my husband, Stephen Nicola, as well. But as we were explaining just before we got started, to those who came early, Stephen got nabbed for hockey again this weekend. So his pictures are in. He was helping me with pictures until the last minute, but he very jolly, big smile, went out the door with his sleeping bag and pillow, and I don't know where those guys are going to sleep. That's me. That's Steve. He takes most of the pictures. I do most of the sticking my nose in things. I appreciate that you tell people about our website. We got hit with a couple of website fees this week that, oh, shoot, I thought those came in March. I got to get this straight. There's so many things that you end up paying for when we do this, and we're really glad that our weekend walkabout subscribers can help us support the website because it lets us keep the things we've been writing for a long time up there and write new stuff, build on top of what's already there. Oh, and Free for All Fridays, we forgot. All it took us was 1 month of taking December off, yeah, all of December off. That got into this Friday, this Free for All Friday. I was already had been putting stuff together all week and saying what things are we going to put into Free for All Friday this coming Friday. But we forgot we need to send out a reminder. If we don't send out a reminder, take it on faith that we will be here, except when there's a webinar the next morning. You can look at our webinar schedule anytime you want. There is always a link on the Free for All on the Fridays page, and you can go to that link and click it and come and join us. Yeah, water was running today. That was our Kyle. What an athlete that dog was. What an athlete. You can't tell, but she's about 4 feet up off the ground right there. Okay, so if anybody's got any questions, this is a good time to put them in here. Toilet paper and, oh, oh dear. Shopping in the dark is really very difficult to do. Most of the stores around, big stores around here have generators that go on. I remember one time when we were out of power that the Myers store near us looked like a little island of light. It looked like domed city from all the lights sticking up around it. But ours only went out for a little bit. Digging in January. This is an if you can't beat it, join it situation. The ground did not freeze. In our case, when the snow came down, the ground was thawed, except in the places where the ground was compacted, like on paths that started getting more exposed, especially as we trampled down the snow. Those places got a crust of ice in them and you couldn't stick a shovel in. But throughout this whole period, throughout all of December's cold, you could stick a shovel in easily. I literally just put that in with my hand and put one heel on it to make it stay there while I took a picture. So it was diggable. If you had a live Christmas tree with the roots, this would be one of those Januaries where you can put it out there. And if you wanted to move things around, you could move things around. I told you a while back, maybe at the December webinar. Yeah, because just after Thanksgiving, at end of November, I was digging out 2 lilacs over here. And I got to where I almost got this guy out. I had the stump wiggling when the light ran out, and the next day the snow came down. So that was still sitting there. So I went over there 2 days ago and I was able to dig further down and get it to wobble further. But I didn't stay and keep digging. There's the shrub that we put in 2.5 years ago in order to take the place of the lilacs, and it's now quite big enough to fill that space. I didn't keep digging because the loose soil that I'm throwing out of the hole is here on top. The pile that I left there when December's cold locked us down, that pile piled up there, that froze. It was up above ground and exposed, and that froze. But the stuff down in the ground and under the mulch was just fine. And so there I am digging. Got a long way down, got another root cut off, got only, I think, one more root left under there. But the ground is wet. There was water in that top layer where the snow was, and now where the rain has been, and that is getting pressed down, and that's ruining the structure of the soil. It's breaking down the crumbs that keep the soil as a nice crumbly, airy kind of mixture. So like I said, I do not want to mess up the soil any more than I have to. There's too much water over here, probably draining off of that pile. So I didn't finish digging. I'll get it in the next thing. I did notice though, I was going back into the garage. This is I'm inside the garage here, and this is the step out through the door. This is the outside concrete pad. Now these guys were walking by. I'm terrible at focusing on small things and then holding my camera steady enough to get it. The ants are running around out there. Over 50 degrees, the insects are developing and are hungry and are running around looking for stuff to eat and things to do. So the birds have not been as active at the feeders, and part of that is because they do have more insects that they can find when it's a little bit warmer, but it's also because it's nesting season for a lot of the hawks. And we have 3 different hawks that hunt in our yard. We're sure that one of them is a sharp-shinned. We're sure that one of them is a red tail. He's a huge guy now. And we think the other one is a Cooper's hawk. But if it's not one day, it's another. They show up, and all the birds, of course, disappear when there's a hawk in the area. Um, let's see this. Oh yeah, Carol, we have been talking about the invasive plant list and the calorie pear, the Japanese barberry. Let's see, water lettuce. Oh shoot. Well, anyway, we have been talking about that. So if you are interested in looking at native plants and why we want, no, that's not what we be. If you're interested in getting a jump on plants you shouldn't put out and that are going to start disappearing from the market, or we think they're going to disappear from the market because it's been proposed that they be made illegal to sell in Michigan. You might want to take a look at that article. It's not going to happen right away because it would be unfair to the growers who for years have been growing these things and have inventory that they need to find a way to sell or otherwise write off. But it will be happening that we won't be seeing buckthorn and barberry. And other states are ahead of us: Wisconsin, Minnesota, Ohio, Massachusetts. Other states are ahead of us in this in banning something. We haven't even banned loosestrife in Michigan, and that was one of the first things they talked about. I was on a committee, I think it was a DNR committee. Yeah, I was on a committee that the Michigan DNR set up back in the 90s, and they wanted to talk about outlawing loosestrife. I said, well, that's good. But I sat in on, I think, 2 meetings, and I said, we really ought to look at Norway maples, and they wouldn't even consider that. I said, you just want to make loosestrife into a poster child. I should have stuck with it and gotten at least one thing taken off of the list back then. Life in the fast lane. Did I miss any questions? No, good. Okay. The red-winged dogwoods are glowing today. They are indeed. Who's got that hand up? Go ahead. I can't see who it is. Oh, Nancy,
It's
go ahead.
me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, don't be
Uh,
sorry. I love
two
it.
quick. Well, no, I just kept clicking on the lower hand, raise hand, lower hand. Raise hand.
And of course, I'm looking down. I have my chat down here and my participants up
Yeah.
here. And I am just, when I focus on something, that's all I see. Okay.
So I had a lot of extra tulips and I planted a lot of them in containers and I left them outside, or I actually have a little greenhouse. But I took some and put them in the basement, trying to find the coldest corner. And my husband said he sees they're starting to grow, and this is a little too early. But I'm just wondering if I decide that I don't want them to continue to possibly sprout and bloom, is it because they've been in such a warm area? If I put them outside when it's so cold, is that going to
If you put them
be a
directly
problem?
outside from 55 degrees and you put them directly outside to 30 degrees, you're probably going to see damage on whatever foliage has erupted is above. But you can put them out and cover them up. Just pile a bunch of leaves on top of them. Or if there happens to be snow, pile some loose snow all around them and they'll be fine. But if they've started to grow already, the problem is that tulip bulbs build root when it's cold. And when it gets warmer, they start growing top and they might not be able to revert to just growing roots. So they what they would do is they would live and grow up and grow green, but might not develop a flower because they don't have enough root to support that to build to take in and build the nutrients. So
Uh,
you might find that they won't bloom, but it's worth a shot putting them outside. Put them outside and bury them.
I did have them in the garage, and so they did get like 8 weeks of cold.
Eight
You
weeks
know, I
should
started this back in like October.
Yeah, 8 weeks should
So,
do it. 8 weeks should do it. And so
okay.
now you just want to slow them down, and to slow them down, you got to keep them cold.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. People plant tulips near their house, for instance, especially if it's an old house that's got a uh, not up to date insulated basement, so it's a warm foundation. And those tulips will come up in February and they'll come up a little bit, and people worry about them, but they get covered with stuff, and they're fine. They might get a little damage on the edges of the leaves if they're terribly exposed, but they should be okay. 8 weeks is a good amount of time for them to get gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Carol says she wishes that Michigan would put periwinkle. I think you're talking about myrtle, vinca minor. We call it myrtle ground cover on the list. Yeah, there is that stuff is definitely, and it is hard to get rid of. It comes back from seed. It comes back from runners underneath nearby things. But I guess it's nice to make some kind of an inroad. Start somewhere, right? Ice, a regular occurrence. Isn't it awful that every year now we get these ice storms? This was the ice storm that came December 22nd, maybe. So I think it was December, and it was right before Christmas. And this is I had to lighten the shadows because it was a dark day. But I spent 2 days in terror that once again the wind was going to kick up and these laden branches on especially on the pines that are sort of brittle, were going to break off. We've lost so many 20-foot long leg diameter branches off of these pines in the last few years. But fortunately, they melted before that happened. But you can kind of see why. And these are spruces. I know they're straggly looking spruces, but they're used. The squirrels are in them, the birds are in them. So we leave them. We have others started underneath, like there's a young fir back here. But if you look at how their branches run on the spruces, and we can't quite see the fir back here, but they're more horizontal. They have more of a tendency that when they get heavy, to lay down along the trunk, whereas the pines are more brittle and they take a huge hit, especially the white pines. So I was afraid we were going to get that again, and it could happen again. It certainly happened to the junipers. This is in our backyard, what we call the dog yard. We have a little fenced area around the decks to make sure the dogs don't run off after a coyote or a deer or off to the lake back there to cross a neighbor's yard. But these are junipers that normally stand up almost to the deck bottom here. And they've been plastered down to the ground and frozen down to the ground, and that breaks and splits branches regularly. It did also make a great place for a Carolina wren. I came out 2 mornings in a row. I stood out here and went, where's that Carolina wren coming from? Well, this Carolina wren went, cool, I got this neat warm cave with branches in it, and it might still be in there because the dogs keep putting their noses in there. But it's terrible on the plants. When we first moved in, I cut a lot of branches out of here that had splits in them where the blind crotches had been pulled apart by all of this weight. Not much you can do except being out there during the snow and keep shoveling the snow off of it. Aren't they cute? Well, I think they're cute. They probably don't feel cute when they're sitting on the snow like that. Um, Questions about ice? Questions about snow, about weather? I've read about the weather change, that this will be one of the big things that does happen to us, that we'll get more severe weather changes, and the ice happens when it brings in rain or warm enough to have wet snow, followed by severe cold. We're going to get more ice storms at the beginning and end of winter. So I'm not going to depend on any white pines. I'm planting firs and red pines. Gotta love bark. And while we're talking about birds, as whatever happens to the trees and shrubs, remember, so go the birds. Um, our yard today, there were those gusty winds. I think it was sent up to 45 miles an hour. It was literally just raining branches out in our backyard. All of the branches that had been damaged or had a lot of weight on them during the ice, had a little crack, came down. So this is a dead branch from one of the red pines way up. And although it seems like just a branch and a big deal, drag it off, that branch has bark borers, bark beetles in it. It has roosts for birds underneath where the canopy still is on the tree. I mean, that is a place where things live. And we are one of our main feeding stations is over here. This is what we call the squirrel feeder. The feeding station is right where Steve is standing taking this picture. But we have been quite worried about this holly. There are two of these hollies. They're a Meserve holly, one of the blue hollies like Blue Princess or Blue Girl. But can you see the discoloration here? We've been noticing it since the ice storm. You can see it better when you change your angle and look at it from my neighbor's side. And I haven't been able to get my face all the way in there because I haven't wanted to get wet. I've had my knee pads on so I could get down on my knees, but everything's wet and I don't want to crawl under it right now. But chances are really good that a major branch on that holly got pulled down and split apart, and I'm going to have to cut that out of there. And that bush, that combination of two bushes there, that is a haven for birds. Dozens of birds live under there get under there when the weather is bad or when they're hiding from a hawk or something. And the yew that we put behind it, which is finally taking off here, is not yet ready to fill that void. But you should be able to see seed changes like that in plants and evergreens anyway, and don't take them lightly. If you can take a look at them now, there is the chance, and I have a couple of times been able to bolt back together big main branches that broke, and then support them in other ways until things can grow in around them. Uh, I will take you to a greenhouse and see what's growing next week, but had to take a look right now at orchids. No questions? No questions. Um, are you tired of pruning my crabapple? Because we prune my crabapple every year for years now. We are tired of it, Steve and I, but we're also committed to keeping this crabapple until such time as we have to get rid of it. It was one of the only, almost the only plant we kept in the front of the house, and it's gotten quite large. That bowl is, oh, probably 5 to 6 inches wider across than when we moved in, but it was twice as tall. You can see the upper branches trying to grow, and I sawed off big branches, big leg-sized branches, and took off the whole upper layer, and now we have to keep it from coming back until such time as the septic field, which is out here and is original with this 1970 house. When that fails, then this whole area of the septic's under here will get dug up and we'll take that tree out and put something else. But until then, this is a major thing for birds. Our front room windows right over here. So we look out the windows right into this, which is just alive with birds all the time, and squirrels coming in a highway across from the fir to the crabapple, down across the crabapple and jump onto the what we call a squirrel feeder in the front here. So it's a major plant, and we do need to prune it. In order to keep it blooming and also smaller, I cut it twice a year. In July, short sometime after it finishes blooming, after it's when it's completely done blooming, but it hasn't and it's slowing down in its growth for the year. And then I cut again in the winter. And this year I missed July, so I'm kind of doing most of my cutting in the winter. And what I'm going to take off all across the plant is this growth, this juvenile growth, the first year growth, which is not going to bloom and is just going to form leaves that will shade and trap fungal spores and things around here and also hide the flowers. What I'm going to leave are the parts that have spurs. Can you see the spur right there? See that spur, short twigs with buds at the end of them? That's going to bloom. And if I pruned this in July, there would be more of these back on last year's growth because I would have cut off this stuff as it was forming. But I didn't, so I won't have quite as much bloom on it, but I need to take these things off. So I work my way around the plant, taking those off. And I won't bore you with how we do that again. We can look at other times of doing it, but now I'm doing it. And I'm thinking about, I haven't even told him yet, I'm thinking about calling David Mitchner. If you're one of our Weekend Walkabout subscribers, you heard David Mitchner on Saturday. He's just a phenomenal presence and character and horticultural expert. But he has apples that he keeps cut back hard like this too. And I'm going to find out what time of year he cuts his back and see if we can do a workshop out there because you can always use someone picking up branches and someone that you can show what you're cutting and why. But the first day that I was so sure I was going to be able to cut on Tuesday, I went out and you can see how moist things are, almost a glazed looking effect on the fruit. It hasn't been eaten yet. But you don't cut when it's wet. If I make cuts on this branch when it's wet, then the moisture that's there rolls down like you see it doing here, encases that, and any fungal spores that might be on that branch that can infect wood, especially young wood, can get in and infect the wood. They probably won't germinate yet, but they'll move to that place and be ready to germinate. So you don't want to cut when it's wet. If you cut when it's dry, you're fine. As long as it's going to be dry for a while after you cut so that the wood can seal itself off. But it was good and wet on Tuesday. It was pretty. Everything was just covered. I wanted to cut the juniper too, and I'm certainly not going to cut the juniper. You stay away from things, especially in the wet. You stay away from cutting things that are prone to diseases of the wood. The rose family, crabapples in the rose family, is very susceptible to fire blight, which is a bacterial infection. Cherries are susceptible to black knot, which is a fungal infection. Junipers are susceptible to phomopsis tip blight, which is a fungal infection, and they're infections of the wood. We have a list of that in, well, I should have looked up which pruning article it is, but actually, if you looked up any of our webinars about pruning and looked at the outline and downloaded it, there's a list at the back of the plants that you want to watch out, especially watch out for pruning when they're wet. Dogwoods, for instance. And we're setting up for what we call GBJS, Garden by Janet and Steve workshops. We've got an ambitious schedule, ambitious year planned, Steve and I, and we want to have these workshops, which means we need to set them up now, and you have to help us set them up. We have the garden at the Waterford Library where we can say, here, we're going to do this project, and you're welcome to come and work with us, either watch or help to do this on the workshop. But we also have done a number of things at individuals' homes. This is at Pam's house. This is at Doris's house. And what we plan to do this year in order to support this is we'll take your suggestions on here. I've got something that needs doing, and if we can get subscribers, our weekend walkabout webinar subscribers will get first choice to attend these things, which will probably be limited to under 7 or 8 people. They can contribute $25 toward the cost that it might be involved in this, and our non-subscribers are $50. But we need to have you propose some hands-on projects. We have a few set up already, or we're setting them up. And the season 7 walkabout weekend walkabout webinar schedule will be out very soon. We have it, and we've been working on topics and nailing down the speakers that we want to have and what dates they can do it. So we'll be bringing that out soon, but it doesn't start until the April webinar is the first part of season 7. So we've got a little while. Don't worry about that. People have said they thought it was the first of the year. One of the things that we'll do is we'll prune some hydrangeas because we always get questions about hydrangeas. This is one of the mop head hydrangeas that people always wonder what do I prune on. And it is Sonia's, not my daughter Sonia, but one of our Weekend Walkabout subscribers, Sonia's. We can make wreaths. We can do window boxes or container plantings for people. Whatever, if you've got something that you think, here's something people would like to see, propose it to us. Send us an email, tell us here's something we can do, and we can set it up. At Suzanne's house, we have some viburnums that she wondered what's going on, and we think we figured out what's going on, but we thought it would be a good diagnostic lab to have people take a look and see if they can follow what's happening and what we would do about it. We have some trees that I'm pretty sure are girdling and that need to be rescued, that we can take a look at. That's in Clarkston, Michigan. The other one is in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. We have one in Ann Arbor. So there are things we're working on this stuff. Did we put it out? We didn't put it out with a Friday, but we'll put it out with the next Friday reminder. Our webinars that we're working on so far are here. And we're still taking suggestions from people because there's room to do more than that, room to do at least 2 more than what we have there. We're also working on those workshops, and we're working on a book club because I think it's great fun to talk with you about books that we're reading. We've talked about this year, we talked about the light eaters, the kind of revelations about the things that plants might be seeing and hearing and feeling. We've talked a little bit about the older books, Silent Spring, and I would like some suggestions because I have a lot of books here that I think people might like to read. Some of them are textbooks, but some of them are more telling a story to tell a procedure or a history of gardening. And I don't mind going all the way back to the 60s. One of the first books that I read was Silent Spring, and it influenced me greatly. But I haven't read it again. I've referenced it a couple of times and opened up and looked for something in it, but I wouldn't mind reading those things at all. And some of them are yeah, Elizabeth, what's your last name? Wrote Tale of it's actually The Little Bulbs, Tale of Two Gardens is the name of the book. And it's a delightful book. It's just correspondence between 2 gardeners and what they were growing, and it's a great thing. Tree Thieves is a real eye-opener. So these are things that we want you to contribute some ideas on, and then we can put together them workshops where people can actually go out and see pruning in 3 dimensions and in time and those kinds of things. We can move trees around, that kind of stuff. Probably won't do too much in the winter time. We'll wait until spring to start doing those because in the winter, there are a lot of houseplants out there, but not a lot of people who want to open up their house and say, come on, trample in and look at my bromeliads or my jade tree. Yes, Suzanne, your viburnum project is on the list. And we'll use your workshop as a diagnostic workshop. So if you've got blue holly that you're wondering about, that's a good one that we can work our way through too. Our projects are limited to Michigan. Deb is asking yes and no. I've already talked to one of our clients in our former clients in Boston to say, can I come by and take a look at your garden? And if is there a good time for you? Because if there is, then we could set something up there. But I haven't set those up yet, and we do have a cohort in Ohio. We've got a cohort over in Wisconsin. And if somebody comes up with something, we're willing to do that. I know Jean is in northern Michigan and wondered about that. There's definitely people in the northern Michigan area that we've talked to for a long time that would be interested in doing that. So tell us what you're thinking about. It's so easy to prune when your tools are sharp and are clean. And next Wednesday evening, that's the 14th of January at the Waterford Library. We're doing our annual tool cleaning workshop. Bring your tools, bring some rags and a honing stone if you have one, some WD-40 oil and a green scrubby, one of those Scotch-Brite scrubbies. And we probably have the rest of the stuff that you need, and we'll clean and do tools together. It's a lot of fun. It's good to do. It's what I've been doing. I'm ashamed to say that I've abused my best loppers. I don't like that the handles are long. I've been using the short-handled Fiskars to get into places better, but the best piece of metal, the best cutters we've got are our Falco loppers. And I pulled them out and went, oh my gosh, what's happened to you? So here I am starting to work on using oil. I generally use oil as a solvent for this WD-40, and then I scrub it to get the rust and the sap off. And here we are working our way down. I'm probably going to need to take these completely apart to get them all the way clean, but they're clean enough now and working well that I could sharpen them and use them outside. And it's to have a sharp tool is a delight, except for your fingers. I tend to make sure I wear my gloves when I sharpen my pruners because I've cut my finger rather severely a couple times when I had unexpectedly sharp stuff to work with. So for the Garden Book Club, we need book ideas. There are a bunch of them that I'm thinking about. Cuttings for a rock garden. I don't know. Maybe our book club suggestion list will just become a reading list for some people, but there are some there it is. It's Elizabeth Lawrence who wrote the Little Bulbs. A new tree biology is almost not readable, but is go through together. Alex Shigo kind of wrote Stream of Consciousness, but the photographs and the concepts that he came up with it remade tree biology literally is really great. And Wurzel Atlas, which has all of the great root stuff that we've been talking about to you, has been translated from the German. It's going to be an expensive book, but I'm thinking I might want to do something with that. You got to stop me. So give me ideas of books. Um, it's fun to go out and decide what to do to somebody else's Japanese maple here at Judy's house. That Japanese maple, we kept it that size for a long time. I want to say 15 years. We kept it that same size, just cutting it once a year in a fall in February or January. No questions. Oh, I should have. Yeah. Carol says that would be great to do something at Dave Mitchell's house, to have me, Stephen, and Dave together. Yes, it is great, and it's also kind of crazy. We are talk about what do they call it? Squirrels, what over there? We get pulled in all directions. Someone is suggesting Carol's suggesting that Michigan might be behind in dealing with the invasive plant list because we have a lot of growers. So does Ohio. So does Wisconsin. So does Pennsylvania and New York. They have tons of growers. We definitely have a lot of growers, but there are a lot of growers in those other states too. And the native plant movement was ahead of us in Massachusetts and Wisconsin, and the pressure got put on a lot more hunters and outside sportsmen in Minnesota who saw things that were actually happening in their woods area. Houseplants in the library. Good idea, Ruth. We'll take it. Let's see if there's something we can do with them. Something to do when it's winter time. Go out. Don't just look out the window. Go out, ramble around and look. You have to make yourself do it. These appeared overnight, the 1st of December, and then promptly got snowed on top of. I said, oh, well, they're gone. This is today. They underneath that snow, they were perfectly insulated, and they're just fine. I still have not sat down with the book. You have to look at whether they have gills, whether the gills are free gills or connected to the, well, I think this is a bolete. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I'm not sure of that. But I do know, I am positive of, that this line right here goes right along where I cut one of the flare roots of the crabapple. When we first moved in and the bed was at least 8 inches high. I had brought the whole bed level down, and then I was clearing around what is the septic tank cover in order to make sure that we could run a new electric line out there for the pump that had to be done. And there was no question that root couldn't stay there wrapped around the entrance to the septic, so I sawed it off. And it took 7 years, for it to get rotted enough. But those mushrooms are coming up right along the line of that root, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's very cool. It's also very cool that they're still alive down there. New plants. So Chris, I'm not sure if Chris is here. I forgot to look, but Chris brought over a Haas Halo hydrangea. I was explaining how much we would like a Haas Halo, and it appeared, but we didn't plant it until December, just before the snow came down. And this is a good time of year while you're out rambling to say, oh yeah, that's new. Let me make sure that it's still moist enough. And I showed you that the ground is moist because all of this snow that's just melted in the last couple of days is seeping through the cold layer into the rest of it. But what needs to be moist is the actual potting soil that new plant went into. And you can go out there and feel those so you can get an idea whether your mums that you planted late might make it through. Are they staying moist or not? This one is staying nicely moist with the mulch around it, and even though it went in late. And you can find out things like this is my yard stops at this tree and comes across here. At least that's what the neighbor tells me. And I think he doesn't want the trees because this tree is kind of out of line with my other ones. But he points and he says that tree is killing the grass there. I said, no, Gary, I don't think so. I think that right there, that spot, which was there first, and this spot, that the problem is drainage, that something is in there. And I've seen it for so many times in so many yards over the years. Something got buried there in the 70s when they were building the houses around here, and it's still there. Or sometimes they would empty their leftover slop concrete in a place, or they bulldoze all of the debris into one place. We've taken pieces of drywall out and had it happen. And so the bad lawn is in Gary's yard, and Gary does love his lawn, as opposed to in my yard. And this year, I think now that I can see two places and I can see how it's puddling there, I can talk him into letting me dig that up and see if we can find out what's under there. But you can see these things more in the wintertime when you're not obscuring things with all of the green around them. You can also see the winter weeds. So there's oxalis, which is a perennial and coming back up, but mixed in with it, here's one of them, is chickweed, a winter weed, cool season or a cold season weed that germinates in the fall and keeps growing. And this is a good time to go and identify those hot spots that you can mark and either put a heavy mulch on top of and kill some of it and remember where it is for getting it out in the before things get going in the spring. I have the problem of here's one of the branches that I cut off of the crabapple laying right here, cut right there. This area I am expecting to become a naturalized area, and the naturalizers that I want in there are Brunnera, which is not native, and Hellebore, which is not native. And so I don't want to put a heavy mulch on there. This is a Hellebore seedling coming up. So I'm stuck with, for at least a while, weeding if I want to keep these other things coming back, but only for a while. This is in the growing season, our long bed at the Waterford Library, and then into the fall. And now we've got our winter decorations put on it in November and got the annuals pulled out of the way. It's an impressive and fun garden. And now it looks like that. And it's great to go out. When you go out, you can see things like the shadows on the snow. You can see where the snow is mounding up, where your mulch is protecting things a little bit more. You can see whether it makes a difference that you've got different color, that the lavender is a different color over here than the sedum that's left up. These are the fun things that you can see on yourself. by yourself. And if you come and do tools with us, you can almost bet, let's see, who is not going to be here? I think it's Pam is going to be in Florida. I know Debbie and Darrell are not leaving. But anyway, these guys have been doing this together for years and are all experts at tool sharpening, and everybody helps everybody else. So it's a fun thing to do. That's Wednesday, January 14th. And there's no charge and you don't have to register, just show up. We're in the community room. The library is wonderful for letting us do that. Just bring your tools. People have asked us over the years to do tool um, care workshops for them. And if you can find a place, we'll do that. We've done, let's see, Janet's synagogue. We did Deb Hall's barn. Um, we used to do our tool cleaning at the zoo at one of their classrooms at the Detroit Zoo, but you just need a place where we can have some work tables, as in sturdy tables. We bring in newspaper and cardboard to put on top of them so that we're not staining anything or scratching anything. So let us know if you want us to come and do that. When you're out walking around, you can see these are so nice. This is the black stems in here are the Culver's root, Veronicastrum virginicum, which can't stand up when I have to throw the snow someplace, so it gets smashed down. But there's our Bergarten sage that we like so much, just looking wonderful, standing up now that the snow is gone. And another thing that looks good, the golden satin grass, the Haconicloa. It's pretty, isn't it? You can look at it and go, "Oh, it's so nice to have that color there," and have the two of them nearby. I said, I think I'm going to do, these are pine needles that are mulch. I said, I think I'm going to do more pine needle mulch around them because that's a nice thing to have there. But you don't really see these things and where you need them or where they could look nice unless you get out there at this time of year. I didn't realize really how outstanding the foliage of the balloon flower and the penstemon is, as opposed to the gray Anaphyllus pearly everlasting, which turns a black in the winter. It's a great contrast, and you get enough of them together, and they give you color. You stand back and look at them and go, I see that the orangey color and the black together. This is the chocolate. I call it chocolatey or chocolatey brown color of Persicaria affinis border jewel. It's a good tough ground cover, not native, but a good tough ground cover for when you got a sandy soil that tends to get some foot traffic as well. And yes, these are white pines. They're coming up on their own. I let them grow for a while, and then I moved a couple of them around, but mostly now I take them down and use them for decorations, like at the library. And you notice when your lines, this is the time of year when you can look and say whether you got your lines right. I wanted the front bed to dip in and come back out again. And that line is still there. But this guy right there, that penstemon that Steve likes so much, I said, Steve, I can't let the penstemon move into that area because the dark foliage needs to come back and around. Otherwise, we got a straight line that just follows the street, and that's boring to me. Boring. And you notice that your paths are important. It's this grass path that goes through here. It wouldn't be the same if it was a wood chip path. My son has said, why don't you just put wood chips on that so you don't have to keep mowing the grass? Because the green makes a better path. If I could afford stone, I might make it out of stone. And you can look around at what others are doing. This is at Dave Mitchell's garden. I was out in his partner Will's, his husband Will's studio, and looked out. I said, everybody who cares about using organic matter can see leaves everywhere in Dave's garden. But he still had leaves left over at the end of the year. And in order to keep them, he's made them part of the decoration out there. There's a pot, a big ceramic pot that he's covered here and made it into art, kind of an art structure. I think it looks pretty cool. And the leaves are then ready for him to spill out in the springtime. And although I don't like blue tarps usually, I always wonder, why did they make that blue? Why couldn't they make more khaki and blend in with the landscape tarps? But in his case, with the bright colors that they have these colors on their house as well. They kind of extend the color of the structures out in the garden. That's Dave Mitchell's Christmas display. It changes to an Easter egg display in the springtime, but hundreds of them hanging from his cider apple trees. You can see the knuckles here where he cuts his trees back to that area. And if you have a nursery or a greenhouse that's got a florist, they're probably open. You can walk around. There's nothing better than to me than in January when it's dark and it's gray and it's dismal and you've been dark for too long, to go into a place that's got light and got some color and things growing. And I'll take you on a bit of a tour next week of what we did this week. Got to bring home some fresh lemons from their citrus trees. And our bird of paradise, incredible. They're just like, who came up with this flower? And these great combinations, you can start getting ahead on what combinations you might want to put together. And I've had people ask, especially somebody, while I was talking about the lemons and the citrus, there's lots of citrus all stacked up together or lined up together. And I said, with all those plants close together, aren't they, don't they have pest problems? They might, and the owner says especially if he waits until later to buy them, they tend to come in with mite problems and spread it between them. But they're watering and raining on these plants on a regular basis. They're showering them off. And we tell people you need to do that to your plants. You can put them over the sink and shower them off, or we cover the soil part of the pot with plastic wrap and then put them in the shower and just turn the shower on. But give them a rain once in a while. It really helps get some of that stuff off. That's a mealybug destroyer. Mealybug is a soft scale, and there are mealybugs on this plant. The mealybug destroyer is eating them, and you can also rub them off with some alcohol on a Q-tip. But you can also rinse a lot of that stuff off when they're younger and susceptible. Water is a great thing. Rain is a wonderful thing for plants. That's you also might see this kind of thing. When you see that, I just want to run inside. But isn't it pretty? Sedum and heuchera and pines, dwarf pines. I don't know if you've been keeping up with bears. I can't remember who first turned us on to this. This is Wilford. If you go to YouTube and uh, Google Wilford the bear, this is one of the videos that you'll find. One of his admirers. It's in a park outside of Los Angeles, actually adjacent to Los Angeles. I've forgotten. It might be called Los Angeles National Park or National Recreation Area. But Wilford is known there. He's got a big scar on his nose, which you can't see right here, and his color is distinctive. But this guy put out a camera to get a video of Wilford going by, and Wilford decided to sleep right there. And there's just a delightful video, and it's there in stop action, so you don't have to. He slept for 2.5 or 3 hours there. First, he scooped all the leaves out of the way and hollowed out the area a little bit so that it was comfy, and then struggled his butt in. And he rolled one way, and then he rolled the other. And then he slept for a while with one paw up on the tree next to him. Isn't he gorgeous? And the same whoever it was who gave me that one said, "Oh, and you also have to know about the big bear. This is it's in that area near where the huge fire was last winter in California. But this bear was estimated at 500 pounds, squirreled himself into the crawl space underneath the guy's house. And they've got video of him going in and coming out of this crawl space. And it is phenomenal that this bear, this big, could fit through there. He also ripped the screen off first. It was like, screen to keep a wild animal out? Don't worry, don't even consider it. He just grabbed it and pulled it right out of the way, and is living underneath the guy's floor. So that was our week, probably way ahead of time. Yeah, so I hope somebody has something else to talk about because that's about what we had to talk about. Other than that, yeah, I'm kind of out of new ideas. Oh, I'm sorry, I should be scrolling the chat since there's 12 new messages. There's probably questions there. I apologize. Sure, we can send out a reminder about the tool care company and what to bring. In fact, if you want, you can get one right now. If you call the library, call the Waterford Library and say, put me on your list. they will send you the reminder that they sent out 2 days ago, which has that list on it. But we'll send it to you, and we'll send it to our whole group. See how many people we can get. Uh, we don't use vinegar to remove rust. Not usually. If the rust is really bad, we'll use navel jelly, which I understand is a phosphoric acid, so it's a phosphorus-based acid in a gel form. But for the most part, we just use oil um, in order to kind of pretend that it's the tree's own oils to dissolve the sap, the build-up sap, as well as the rust. But no, we haven't used vinegar before. We thought about Doug Tallamy's books, Barb. Thank you. Especially his most recent one. We haven't gotten it onto the list yet, but I'm trying to come up with books that have a bit of a story to them too, so that we have a mix of the textbook kind of things, the how-to, and the story type books. Yeah, Suzanne bringing nature home, and I think the most recent one is Nature's Last Chance. Nature's Last Chance is what stuck in my mind. Wait, he's got one called How Can I Help? He's got a more current one. He is a prolific writer, Doug Tallamy. Carol wants to know where the Hilo hydrangea came from. I asked Chris the same. I said I looked all over. She said she found it that White Flower Farm had some, so you might want to look at White Flower Farm. Yeah, yes, it was rated high. It's our native, one of our native ones. It was rated very highly in Mount Cuba's hydrangea tests. We attended a webinar on their hydrangeas a while ago, and what they did is counted how many visits by how many kinds of pollinators, and it was hands down the favorite for pollinators. Um, they have proven winners, and yeah, nurseries around do go with the plants that have the best marketing that goes with them. When they're going to be in a book and people are going to see that name in a catalog or in a magazine, the nurseries know they have to carry it. So White Flower Farm for Haas Halo. Favorite bird attractors. Let's see. Um, Watching and helping the birds is always interesting and uplifting. Let's see, what are definitely the loose evergreens. We have lots of birds living in the dwarf white pines, in the low, not the ground cover junipers, but the low spreading junipers like Fitzer, and in the hollies. Those are biggies. Um, we put the birch logs up. We hung them up on the stumps of those trees in order to let them start rotting because chickadees like birch so much. They something about the softness of the wood. I'm not sure what it is, but we watched them hollow out one time, and it was a life-changing experience to watch. So birch trees and allowing the dead limbs to stay there on the birch trees. What else is good? They like a something that has a lot of perches that they can sit in and scope out bird feeders, which is why we put a new shrub in place of the lilac stumps that I showed you, the stumps that we're digging out. We put a new shrub in to replace them 3 years ago so that there would be something growing there because every bird sat in that lilac on its way to the feeder, just as they sit in the crabapple on the way to the feeder. Um, what others are big attractors? I think that's probably it, the ones that we notice in our yard. In one of our clients' yards, a Rosa Sharon hedge was a biggie. It was kept clipped, so it was quite dense, lots of twiggy stuff that they could get in and around. And well, it was a juniper hedge, so it was a spreading juniper hedge. That was a big one. The hawk would dive in the middle, and birds would come out in all direction from the sides. Spirea, we had the Van Hoot old-fashioned snow mound spirea. We knew that was a favorite place because you could look underneath it and it never needed to be fertilized. It was covered with bird droppings underneath from all the birds that sat inside there. Someone has their hand up. I can hear a voice other than my own, which would be great. Nancy, go ahead. Or maybe your hand is.
So you mentioned something earlier about you have a septic field or a septic tank or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a specific book or something that I could look up to get information about planting and stuff at a septic field? simply because I believe I know structures can't go on it, but I don't know about trees and perennials and all that.
A long time ago now, I don't know, I have not looked recently, but in the 80s, I think when I was first presented with septic fields and needing to do a design, I interviewed people who maintain septic tanks, and I went to the library at the time. It was before the internet had much on it, but now I know that the EPA had a number of things about septic fields and water conditioning areas like that. And so did two of the nurseries, Prairie Nursery and Prairie Moon Nursery, had actual mixes of plants designed for on septic fields. The point with septic fields is that you want things that do not have woody roots that extend themselves into moist places and continue enlarging in girth, um, and fast growing especially. This we heard mostly from, or first from, and uh, with most venom, with most enthusiasm from the people who maintain septic tanks, not maples, willows, elms. Fast growing trees do not belong on or next to a septic field. Slow growing trees, one of the oldest septic field guys, um, the Todoroff brothers, and the Todoroff brothers were already turning the business over to grandkids, had been in business for their whole lives. And they said they have crab apples on their own fields, and the crab apples are not going to be a problem to their fields, because they're small enough trees and not fast growing. So woody plants you want to do slow stuff, but to grow you can grow grass on it or short plants. We're growing just grass on ours because we're pretty sure that any year now it's going to fail. It's been there over 50 years. It's going to fail, even when it's just two people dealing with the field. And when it does, they're going to have to dig the whole area out. And I don't want to get a meadow established and then have it dug out. Once they dig it out, we'll probably keep the path around the edge and we'll make a short meadow in the middle on top of it because that septic will stay there for a while. So herbaceous plants, you shouldn't have any problem with that. Even the deep-rooted prairie plants, they don't have a woody root that continues getting thicker. And that's the problem. Things that can, once in a pipe, can literally, by hydraulic pressure, break the pipe is our problem.
Oh, so my son,
And you don't, another thing that, and the EPA had a lot of information on this, you don't put vegetable gardens on a septic field because some groups of plants, um, one, like the brassicas, your Brussels sprouts and cabbage and kale uh, um, and broccoli, those accumulate cadmium. There are heavy metals that they can accumulate, and if there's something dumped into the septic field, then it does happen that things get put in, cleaners and solvents and stuff get in there. Those can take them up. So you don't want your vegetables to be taking things up from a septic field, but your herbaceous plants, the pollinator plants should be fine there.
oh, okay, thank you. And thanks, Carol. I see your post there.
And thank you if you'd come all the way up from Akron, Deb, or else get us a place in Akron and let us get a group together because we have a bunch of people um, in the Cleveland area, uh, going over to the west side. I can't remember what Chuck's last name is, the extension agent who used to be there. We used to go regularly to his winter seminars and met a lot of people there. But yeah, find us a place in Akron we can come to. Braiding sweetgrass is wonderful, Lily. Thank you. It is on the list. I don't know the deck chair gardener, so thank you very much. Deb, it is. It's an awesome book. We've been passing it around. Um, and braiding sweetgrass just takes you into a new, a totally different way of looking at the world in a very gentle way. Robin Kimmer, I guess I got her name wrong. No, oh, Noah's Garden. Thank you, Ruth. Forgot Noah's Garden. The Overstory, Suzanne, that's a good one. I mean, I don't know that one, and I'd like to have some new ones here. The Plant Messiah. Great, this is good. I'd like to start it in February, so looks like we've got something to go with. And we figured that this book club we could meet virtually, so we don't have to worry about physically where we get together. Magnolia trees. I wonder what. Why magnolias attractive? What, Deb, are they star magnolias? Are they the bushy magnolias or are they the saucer magnolias? And yeah, echinacea in the winter, juncos and goldfinches they tend to sit on the top and pull the seeds out while they dance back and forth in the wind. It's great watching them do that. And basswood and linden for migrating sapsuckers. I didn't know that they like that. I think it's very cool how sapsuckers go around. I've seen them do a lot of pines. Helianthus gigantea. Okay, so the native giant sunflower for fall goldfinches. All of those Helianthus, Heliopsis, and the Sisyrinchiums, the cup plant and prairie dock, and those fall ripening sunflower relatives are just they're Fort Knox for the birds. Red-toed dogwood that you like more than the other. It seems like I've seen a halo cultivar that had bigger leaves and more pronounced white edges on the leaves. Um, I have not bought any new red twigs in quite a while. I got hung up. I really loved cardinal. We had a picture of it a while ago. It's kind of a red gold color, and we like cardinal a lot. The variegated ones I have been not happy with because of the leaf spot that they get and can disfigure the foliage. They don't always get it, but unless they're in a nice place that stays moist reliably at their roots, they tend to be susceptible to that. Halo cultivar. Anybody who's got some new dogwoods and can red twig dogwoods and can think of some of the new names, I could grab a catalog here, but I'll do that for the next Friday. And great suggestions for birds. Oh, thanks, Diane. Glad that helped. Native plants to grow near a drain field. Carol found there. See, you got MSU's got an article, a bulletin on native plants to grow. And I do remember Michigan State stuff. A lot of the extension services are very careful this way to say, you can grow it near it, but not on it. I'm willing to say grow it on it. And Neil DeBole, who's one of the people we're hoping we can have talk about, do a webinar for us. Neil DeBole is just great, and his depth of knowledge of native plants and meadows and uses of native plants in places like this goes deep. Not to make a joke, he has a mix just for drain fields, for septic fields, and cleansing fields. Thank you, Deb. A couple of project ideas down in your area would be great. Bracken's Brown Beauty. Bracken's Brown Beauty. What a cool name. I wonder why they're Brown Beauty. I'll have to look that up and see what they are. But yeah, anything that we have a magnolia in the backyard. We kind of used it it's terrible, but we were using it as an example of a bad root system. And after we cut it all up, we felt bad for it, so we stuck it in our yard because we've seen magnolias very pretty as understory plants. So we put it under the native red pines here and we're letting it grow up. But it's going to be slow for a while until it can start branching out and attracting birds. I hope it will. I hope it will. And I hope that winter will get back into being a little bit more normal this month, because if it stays warm like this, we're going to lose a bunch of plants again. Already I see a lot of views with a lot of damaged foliage from that big change in temperature so quickly in December. And if we get that same big change again, it's going to damage more foliage. And I do love greens to stay, the green they can stay. Whoop, so yeah. So I'm going to, yeah, right. Ruth has got to, I don't know what goes on, what can handle being on a septic field. Look at some rain gardens. They work very well for showing you what kinds of things you can grow there. So that's it for a Free-for-All Friday this week. Our next weekend walkabout is pruning and shaping plants, and it's February 7th. Steve and I are conducting that one. See if we can put a new pruning package together for you to come at this a little bit differently, but it'll be at a time when, cross our fingers, we have our January and February thaws so that we can do that pruning. And we'll be back next week with the next Free-for-All Friday, which is January 16th, and I hope to see you there. We'll send out an invitation for the tool party too. Thank you all for being here.